So when do you think investors should care about a stock split? Like if when will it affect their lives?
Yeah. So to go back to that metaphor of the pie's the same size and you're just slicing it differently and you're owning that same portion. Sometimes there are instances where it's not just
one of the slices gets to vote a lot.
Basically, you wind up in these situations where we're slicing the pie differently, but I'm telling you what the pie is going to look like, or I'm going to tell you what the pie is made out of.
One of the slices has all the pecans.
Yeah. And so you're seeing, I think there are a couple of really high profile examples, Under Armour, one of them out of the tech space, but some stock splits more recently have been used to issue new share classes, and those new share classes distribute the economic value of the split, but they don't necessarily have the same rights as the previous shares did. And our lead-in for the show and why we wanted to talk about this was Facebook's proposed split, and this is something that came up in their conference call. And so if you checked out Facebook's conference call, you would have heard, pending stockholder approval, we intend to issue 2 Class C shares as a one-time stock dividend for each outstanding Class A and Class B share, resulting in a tripling of the pre-classification total shares outstanding. And that's from David Wehner, the CFO of the company.
Who owns all those Class B shares, Dylan?
You want to take a guess?
Oh, I know who.
Yeah, so right now Facebook...
His name rhymes with Muckerberg.
Yeah. Facebook already has 2 classes of stock. They're A and B shares. And they were created when the company went public, and the idea there was they wanted Mark Zuckerberg to retain ownership of the company. So Class A shares, they each have 1 vote. Zuckerberg owns a pretty small percentage of them, actually. I think it's like about 4 million of the 2.3 billion outstanding. So
wow.
Tiny. Class B shares, on the other hand, have 10 votes each. He owns 468 million of the roughly 550 million outstanding.
Yeah.
So 85%.
Yeah.
So all told, he owns about 15% of the company, but wields like 60% of the votes.
So this is automatic. The proposed, issuance of the 2 Class C shares and everything, pending stockholder approval. That's definitely going to happen because he controls 60% of the voting power of the company.
It will probably happen. Yeah, it'd be crazy for it not to, right?
Unless he accidentally hits the no button or something.
Yeah, and so how does this all tie in? Again, from the company's conference call, this structure will allow for the preservation of the voting structure that has served the company well to date, while allowing for Mark to fund the Chan Zuckerberg initiative over the course of his lifetime. Importantly, as part of this proposal, the preservation of the multi-class capital structure would generally be predicated on Mark continuing to maintain an active leadership role at Facebook. And so, for maybe listeners that don't know, the Chan Zuckerberg initiative is Mark and Priscilla Chan, his wife's LLC, and it's not a nonprofit, but it is slanted towards a nonprofit type mission. The idea there is advancing human potential and promoting equality in areas such as health, education, scientific research, and energy. So
he's more or less doing what Gates did, just a little bit younger,
yes,
with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Exactly. And so earlier in the year, they committed to donating 99% of their Facebook shares, the value of their Facebook shares. And he said, he's not going to sell more than $1 billion over the next 3 years. But for him to do that based on his current ownership, he'd hit a point where he'd be selling very valuable shares.
Right.
In
terms of voting rights.
Yes, in terms of voting rights. And so if you look at this, what is effectively a 3-to-1 split, he will be receiving a ton of shares, over 900 million shares to work with. And he will then be able to transfer the non-voting shares, the Class C shares, to those
the foundation,
the LLC, and then maintain that ownership.
Got it.
And this is very similar to what Under Armour looked to do with their C shares, right? I mean, the idea there was Kevin Plank is at the helm, and he wants to maintain ownership of the company.
It seems like companies wind up doing stuff like this just so the founder can spend some of their money. You look at Larry Ellison over at Oracle. He owns one of the islands of Hawaii, and he races super crazy yachts. And
doesn't sound like he's given 99% of his shares away.
No, but it was interesting to me because I don't think he's ever really sold a single of his original shares in Oracle. But what he did, instead of like doing a different share class than selling shares or whatever, is he just gets a ton of stock options every year.
Oh, he's written in crazy grants, right?
Yeah. So, and there's that, and then obviously you've got Buffett, who just waited till he was 80 to start giving his money away, and then it doesn't matter. And really, the only outlier there is Gates that I can think of, because he's just selling his shares. He actually, it happened a year ago, I think. Ballmer actually owns more of Microsoft than Gates.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Like, imagine.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. I remember going to the library when I was like 16 and reading the Value on Investment Survey, and one of the pages in it is major insider sells, and they just send it out every month or whatever. Every month, like clockwork, for like 15 years, Gates has just been selling 20 million Microsoft shares. Like, anyway, so how do you? Bottom line, stuff like this always kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, there's that weird tinge of like, I know what you're doing, and I think it's right.
Right.
Because if you're a Facebook shareholder, you believe in Mark Zuckerberg,
right,
and you believe in his vision of the company, and you want him at the helm. I can't think of anyone else
right.
that you'd rather have running that company. So you want him locked up, and you want a corporate structure that gives him the opportunity to wield ownership as he sees fit and steer the company towards the initiatives that he wants to be working on. There's that.
On the other hand,
yeah, there's that weird taste to it, though. And if you own Facebook and you don't want Zuckerberg at the helm,
why are you buying?
Why do you own them? I guess.
It just seems to me like stuff like this, just complicated, convoluted ownership structures, long term, they kind of muck things up a little bit.
Yeah, and there's actually already been a class action lawsuit filed by a shareholder claiming basically this move gives Zuck.
Did that happen about 5 minutes after this announcement was made?
Yeah, it was like that. So they claim the move gives Zuck entrenched control without really him having to give up anything.
Right.
And that's kind of problematic. And from a corporate governance standpoint, I understand that argument, but it's really one of those things where if you believe in him as a leader and you're following him as an investor, then you really shouldn't worry all that much about it.